Okay, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Illegal Pancakes podcast. A very special episode because if you haven't seen the news, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. But more importantly, Doom Eternal's coming out, and we are hyped over the top with excitement. And now would be the perfect time to look back at some of our Doom Eternal videos, because on this channel, the Doom Eternal videos are relatively the most successful ones we do, and I think that's because they're gaming videos. But the first Doom Eternal video we put up was the 5 things that Doom Eternal needs video, and that was also the first video we had that made it over 1,000 views. So it has a very special place in our heart. But with those views, we got a lot of hate mail, and the main reason why was because the last section we criticized Doom 2016's music.
You could prattle on about how Mick Gordon's dubstep-infused score is the perfect fit for a game released in 2016, but in doing so, you'd be ignoring one blaring fact. Doom is metal.
Now, I have with me my co-host, Connor. Say hello, Connor.
Hello.
So, what we wanted to do for this one was kind of justify the reasoning behind the video where we talked about, well, to justify why we trashed on Doom 2016 soundtrack. So, Connor, why did you say that Doom's soundtrack, when I say Doom, I mean Doom 4, Doom 2016, why you said the soundtrack was lacking?
Well, what it all comes down to, and people need to realize this, is, I just didn't like it. Really, that's what it was.
How about deal with the music? Because everyone knows it has gonna be dense and epic as fuck, just like with 2016. And Doom 2016 is one of the best games to come out in recent years because it's still heavily regarded as one of the FPS titles to date.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how it works with music. I mean, you can fight over which music is better and which one isn't, but for the most part, it comes down to just opinion and taste and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I had played through, classic Doom 2, multiple times before I had gotten used to that style of music, I guess. And, Castlevania was also big on my mind, so I'm I really like melodically driven game music. And, that Doom 2016, that's more of the, I don't want to say noise for the sake of noise, but it doesn't have as much emphasis on melody,
Yeah, so Doom 2016 was praised a lot for its soundtrack. And I think the main reason why it received so many different rewards is because of the way how it functions in the game, that there is no true Doom soundtrack. All the note bits and stuff are broken up into small little sections, and depending on how you play the game, the music will play in a different way, it'll get more intense or less intense. And that's been done in games before, but it's done to the max in Doom 2016, which that's really cool. That's awesome that they were able to do that. I don't know who to thank, if that's Mick Gordon or if that's the game programmers, but whoever did that put a lot of work into it. But I do feel in execution, it didn't always come off as that good. The music became off as just forgettable and sort of background noise. And with it being background noise, the music it plays isn't that loud either. When I think of music in games, you usually think of, well, even just the start of Doom. You start up the map and it starts blaring Running from Evil or Episode 1 Hangar Bay music, and it's the first thing you hear. And in Doom, it's kind of pushed to the background. You don't hear it as loud as you do in other video games. Yeah, that's one thing about the soundtrack that I noticed right off the bat, was that it would be playing music and it would be playing for a couple minutes before I noticed. And I think that's just a negative side effect of the way it functions in the game. So in the 5 Things Doom Eternal Needs video, you talked about how Doom was rooted in metal and that the soundtrack in Doom 2016 didn't support that. Do you want to explain that in a little more depth?
Okay. So the friggin' elephant in the room with this is the big influence of electronic music, or more specifically, the more progressive side of metal, I would say.
The dubstep and new wave, as I
would
call it.
Yeah. So Mick Gordon is very big into djent I have no idea how it's actually pronounced.
I've heard it's pronounced Gent, but
Gent?
nobody knows.
Okay. So yeah, there's like more of a progressive side of it, and it seems that progressive side is more forefront than the actual like guitars and all that.
Yeah, because I mean, as I said earlier, I mean the soundtrack, the music in the game isn't very loud, and what you'll hear most of the time is you'll start a battle and you hear like the electronic beat in the back, the boom 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 boom, and then as you start killing the people, it'll start busting into more and more guitar, which again is cool, but the problem is that it has to slowly build up to the guitar while the electronic is playing the whole time. So in the battle you get guitar at the end and a bunch of electronic at the beginning, and it's not as much metal. And Doom has always been rooted in metal. The whole game is very based around metal culture and concepts. The art style in the original games is based off metal art. The soundtrack was trying to be metal, but since it was MIDI, it was only, I guess it was electronic in the original game, but it was pretending to be guitar.
Yeah, like, I mean, it sounds like very, very overdriven guitar in some parts. Like, I don't know if you have an old Casio electronic keyboard, you set it to overdrive, or like the overdrive guitar mode, it sounds almost exactly like the Doom MIDI guitar tracks. So yeah, another thing that we kind of came across while thinking up this video podcast thing like a month or so ago back. Apparently Bethesda wanted the soundtrack to be like entirely electronic originally. Isn't that right?
Which is a stupid ass idea.
Yeah, really. And so we're thinking that, even though Mick Gordon kind of went and did his own thing after, I guess they gave him permission to do whatever he wants since, artistic ability, artistic free reign. But, like, we're still thinking that might have been, like, rooted in his mind, or maybe he actually did.
Well, even if it wasn't rooted in his mind, he would take the songs that were already written for the soundtrack and just kind of modify those ones.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like, he already, like, came up with some, like, initial concepts and tried to convert them back to, or, like, add more, like, heavier guitar-focused roots that, like, I guess didn't end up coming through as much.
Yeah.
At least in our eyes.
Yeah, because And the other thing that he did that bugs me was he would take different, like, satanic symbols and stuff and then just, like, slap them on whatever music program he was writing.
Yeah.
And sure, that's cool in concept, but it doesn't lead to good, fun music. It just leads to, like, weird screeching sounds. And I don't like listening to that while I'm playing video games.
Yeah.
If you took... Yeah, I mean, you can do the same thing with, like, Shrek on, like, what is it, Synthesia? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, like that, wasn't that video, like, it was supposed to be All-Star, but it slows down, like, once it gets to the actual, point. Even though it's a picture of Shrek's face, there's a tiny portion of it, like a really minuscule part that's actually the All-Star song, and then it just goes into a bunch of gibberish.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I think, in conclusion, what we're just trying to say here is that the biggest letdown for us of Doom 2016 was the fact that the soundtrack wasn't as metal and as pumping as some of the fan-made soundtracks for other Doom WADs and stuff. And we want for Doom Eternal to improve on this by, 1, having more electric guitar, putting more emphasis on that. 2, making the music louder. Like, you watch the trailer for Doom Eternal, and it's blaring this guitar. You never see anything that loud in the actual game, or at least in 2016. And just play more upbeat music during the game. A lot of times in Doom, there's a lot of just boring ambient music while you're just kind of walking from arena to arena. And honestly, it's more fun just to be playing some heavy metal riff during those, so you feel like a badass while you're walking from one arena to the next. So
yeah, it would also help if there would have been enemies between those arenas too, like more.
Yeah.
Instead of just the main action being in bottlenecks and arenas, to say the least. But yeah, so we are willing to give old Mickey Gordon a second chance.
Unfortunately, we are not going to give Final Fantasy VII a second chance. neither of us are going to play that game. We didn't play the first.
Yeah, like we never gave it a first chance.
Yeah.
Maybe if it gets apparent that the corona outbreak is, gonna actually overtake us, and I'll be like, I gave this game so much shit, I'm gonna actually try and play it. But
yeah, I mean, if I'm locked in my house, I'll play it. I'll play it if I'm locked in my house.
But then that'll be the thing that actually kills me. Trying to get through Final Fantasy VII and all of its bullshit. You think we're gonna get any dislikes for that?
Probably not.
I hope not.
All right, so next week we are going to do a Doom Eternal first reactions podcast, because I doubt either of us will have beaten the game at that point.
Hell no.
Yeah. Hell yes, you mean.
Oh.
Because it's Doom. Hell.
Oh, yeah, but like hell, but like not that we're actually going to get through it.
Do you even go to hell in the new game? I don't know. I haven't played it yet.
It looks like it.
It looks like it.
Almost. I don't know.
All right. Stay tuned. We'll have more Doom Eternal videos for a little bit. Till then, this is the Pancast. Peace.